What's going on, folks? Y'all know what it is, man. Tune in. You're tuned in to DG47 Arms, and this is Open Eyes Media right here. And what we're about to do is show you what the hell is going on with this current administration and what's about to happen. So, with that being said, let's listen to my man Darren Monroe, and he is going to give you the jewels. And I'm going to stop and let you know when he just dropped the jewels. So, here we go.
Trump stole the you-know-what, and I'm going to tell you exactly why that doesn't matter versus everything else he's done after he stole the you-know-what. And how he and Elon are going to jail. They got pathways to jail. Yes, even a trillionaire. And I know some of you don't believe it. Oh, he's going to go to jail. Yeah, there's a good way. And then once I explain this to you, you'll get a better understanding of it. I give context in this channel, not news. So let's go. Yeah, I worked on Kamala Harris's campaign, and I got to tell you, yes, North Carolina, Michigan, Pennsylvania, weird. Okay? Weird. That's all I want to tell you. We know it happened. There are people in the intelligence community who know it happened. Why do you think he's firing thousands of FBI, CIA, NSA people to this day?
Yeah, why do you think he fired so many damn people, man? Smash that like button if you know that we are covering everything that they cover up. Smash that like button, man. We getting right to it.
Why do you think since he got in office, he got rid of them? Why do you think that the first person, even before the first group, even before the intelligence officers he got rid of, was the inspector generals? He tried to anyways, but he did it in the ghetto way. A president can fire an inspector general with a 30-day notice. He didn't even want them to have that 30-day notice. You understand? It's real talk. I'm trying to tell y'all. Yeah, it was stolen, but at the same time, all the evidence they think is gone is not gone. The intelligence community see it. There's already been gathered, but they realize there's nobody to take it to right now. Now I want to tell you something. If you hear...
Right. Who you going to take it to if the people you taking it to are the perpetrators? Smash that like button, y'all. Double tap that screen. Y'all know what it is, man. We bringing you the truth, not the proof. You know what I'm saying? We bringing you the proof, not the poof. So here we go. No smoke screens and mirrors right here. We're going to let it be known.
Fireworks outside. This is July 4th. Happy July 4th. So, of course, I'm going to bring up a lot of stuff on 250 years of America, right? Here's the thing I want you to understand out of this being stolen. That's not the low-hanging fruit anymore. There's two other ways that, particularly with Trump, is going to get him caught up, but Elon's going to get caught up in it too, okay? Lower-hanging fruit.
If you can't wait for them to get caught up, smash that like button right now. Share this shit to somebody who else needs to hear that you don't need to fear shit. It's already going down.
It's going to get him kicked out of office. It ain't going to be that. They will look at it eventually once DOJ has changed, meaning Democratic president now have a DOJ, which isn't until 2029. I told everybody we got time for this, and I know you pissed, but at the same time, listen, show your anger at the polls, motherfuckers. Show the man, listen, get out your feelings, get into your focus. I tell this to black people all the time. I'm telling this to all American people that voted for Kamala Harris. Get out your feelings, get in your focus. Because there are three types of people that have popped up since this election. And they're on the left. We got the alarmist people who say, Trump, breaking news, this has happened. They become parrots of Trump. They don't give a fuck because they're getting money based on views, okay? The second group is conspiracy theorists, people who are coming up. See, fireworks. Conspiracy theorist people, conspiracy theorists, you know, and they dealing with that shit. And my thing is, yeah, like I said, do you know what was stolen? I can't say what it is. Y'all can say it, but you know what I'm talking about. But we ain't gonna get into that because unfortunately the conspiracy theorists don't have a game plan. They got a game plan, no game plan. And then the third group of people are the doomsday. We're doomed and America is falling. You know, wow, they really shooting them out good today. And I'm like, wow. And I'm over by the Chicago River. I live downtown Chicago, y'all. I'm over by the Chicago River. They're getting down. But here it is. We have this situation, this horrible situation But these type of people are not helping. Conspiracy, alarmists, doomism, right? But they're right. We one thing they're right, and we're all right about. Something has to be done about it. Well, it's already been done. There's been investigations already done secretly, but they ain't got nobody to bring it to in the Trump administration. So it's a matter of time. But before we even get there, there are a couple of things that are lower hanging that could kick Trump out. So let's go into that. Epstein. That's another thing I can't even put in my titles hardly. Epstein. The Epstein list stuff, man. That stuff right.
Want powerful futures tools, insight, and
Smash
speed?
that like button, y'all. Double
Then you
tap
should
that.
check out Robinhood.
Yeah.
I want y'all to really just take a look at this, man. We got the Republican Party trying to steal the goddamn election, trying to silence the black vote. You got the Republican Party who is in disarray. All the people who was part of this whole MAGA movement have denounced it. You know, not everybody what this was going to be, a straight shit show. And we here for it, man. Smash that like button, double tap that screen. We're going to 1,000 subscribers real fast.
Woo! Let me tell you, that's coming out. That's why I say run to the polls. Don't get mad. Don't get in your feelings. Get in your focus, because those polls, we run to them polls in November. We're going to have a Democratic majority that's already ready. Garcia on the Oversight Committee is probably going to head the Oversight Committee as a Democratic person. We don't have the Oversight Committee controlled right now by Democrats. It's by Republicans. And Garcia's done a great job as somebody who's been in the minority, because he's investigated that Epstein shit, done subpoenas. He is not fucking around. He ready to go after everybody. And that's going to get him in trouble, meaning Trump, but it could also get Epstein. So also could get Elon in trouble, because Elon's on that list too. Elon was on that plane. He was on that island. Okay? So they're all in trouble. They could get him kicked out. That's why Trump is trying everything he can to fuck up the midterms elections. That's why that's happening, y'all. That's why the craziness is popping off. And what I'm telling everybody is getting to the polls is the biggest thing ever. Spreading word on this video, not for the sake of me, but for the sake of what's happening, is one of the most important things you can do. Now, let's talk about some other things that are going down so you can be prepared for this. His second issue, both him and Elon, is corruption. I know we've just been talking about stealing you know what, but I'm talking about the money. These government contracts that Elon has got by the billions.
See, they might let you say some racist stuff. They might let you depict the Obamas as monkeys. But what they not going to let you do is steal millions, even billions of dollars. But what you won't get away with is stealing money. So you went too far when you started stealing money, and you went too goddamn far when you thought somebody was going to let your ass do it. Smash that like button, man, right now.
These government contracts that Trump's family has gotten. That's why they've been having these fights. That's why they've been, having these meetings and stuff. Because they know this money can put them out of power and in prison. And so here you have a scenario where we're talking about the you-know-what being stolen, but this corruption thing, way bigger, and easier to prove and easier to get them kicked out and into prison. It's a process. It's going to take time. I'm not going to tell you, like that, but you don't ever want it to be like that. Because if you don't dot the I's and cross the T's, Trump and Elon will play the system enough to win just by, incorrect mistakes that could be made to get them out the door. You don't want to do that. You don't want to do that at all. I'm trying to tell you that what is happening right now, what the process that this is going through, okay? What is happening is catching them closer to getting in prison jail, and eventually they're going to investigate the you-know-what.
Now, I know a lot of people don't believe that and don't have any mind to think that any of these people are going to jail. It's either working for the other team or their hands is tied based on the leadership and what these people, whole thing plays out. But the writing is on the wall. Whole thing plays out. But the writing is on the wall. You can see it Smash that like button if you see it. Let's get back to it.
They'll start bringing evidence to that, to look at that after 2029. And again, you don't want a quick process. I told everybody this for the last 18 months. The reason we're winning in the lower courts by 80%, the appeals court by 80%, and the reason we do win some major stuff, like...
Is it just me, or does grocery shopping hit different these days? Every aisle, I'm thinking, can I afford this? Where's the store brand version? What?
Birthright citizenship, and you can't, kill mail-in ballots with your executive orders at the Supreme Court level. There's some stuff we lost, but there's some things we're winning. Oh, another reason you should get to the poll is, yeah, we lost the Voters' Rights Act decision, killing the black vote mainly in the South. But do you know that the United States legislature, the Congress with a Democratic majority, can write around that bitch? Right around it. Yes, they got the power of election. I've already looked it up, researched it, the whole nine. You can write around it. So even though we got fucked on this decision, we got to circle around to get the black and brown vote back, even after the gerrymandering shit. Yeah, there is a comeback after this. Most people aren't telling you. The alarmism isn't telling you because they're too busy alarming you. The conspiracy people ain't telling you because they're too busy conspiring. The doomsday people ain't telling you because they're too busy being fucking negative. There's a positive to this. We are winning, and understand this. He didn't win. She did. He's not winning now. And he's on that list. And if he lives so long, he's going to jail, and he's going to have company, okay? And Elon's in trouble with him because $1 trillion Elon could try to talk his way out of this. But here's what makes this difficult, and I want you to understand two things. One, if the feds come after him, yes, J.D. Vance will probably pardon them and get them out, right? Trump cannot pardon himself by law. So could he pardon Elon? Yeah. But the thing we got on our side is constitutional lawyers. We got the top lawyers in the nation whipping his ass, y'all. And what I'm saying about that is that they can come after him. And yes, through J.D. Vance, President J.D. Vance could get him. But they could wait, too, to a Democratic president. Ain't nobody going to pardon him after 2028. There's a Democratic president because we going to show up like our life depends on it in the polls this year and in 2028, right? Here's the other thing to understand about this whole scenario that you got to grasp for a moment. Let's say the feds did come after him through Congress in hearings. The feds went after him. And let's say they did, kick him out. And let's say them and Elon got put into prison, right? Or possible convicted. And J.D. Vance pardoned him, right? Here's the problem. The states can come after him. And the states are pissed over a lot of stuff that happened. Understand, these are the United States of America. And the governors and attorney generals rock on the Democratic side. For the last 18 months, they have stopped so much shit from trillions of dollars to Medicaid freeze that was going on. They have done a ton of good shit. And if you're convicted by the state, that's why Trump's a felon. If you're convicted by the state, there's nothing could be done for you, especially if you're no longer president, especially with Elon Musk. Understand, the federal convictions are going to be powerful, but he could get pardoned, okay, the Elon. But the problem is that state convictions, you can't pardon somebody from a state conviction. Again, that's why Trump's a felon in New York. Yeah, so real talk. The point here is that what's happening, the process, they got this designed and they got time, and we want them to have time, because the more we dot the I's, cross the T's, and give it time, the more they step into that shit, and they're going to get in trouble. And yes, the you-know-what is going to get discovered. The you-know-what stolen is going to get discovered. But by that point, this Epstein and this corruption shit going to fold on them. Real talk. Hang tight, people. I need you to do one key thing. Share this video. The second key thing you should be doing is go to my homepage of YouTube. You know how to get there. Click on the name, go over there, and watch my last 10, 20 videos if you're new here. And if you haven't seen my latest videos, because I've been killing it. I've been killing it on these conversations. And this is all about.
This summer, thousands of homeowners across the Midwest are upgrading their old, cracked, and stained garage floors
Republican leaders have shut down Congress for about 2 weeks. MAGA Mike fled last week after he faced a revolt against MAGA Republicans who wouldn't pass a rule. So they just sent everybody home, not just for the 4th of July weekend, but like July 13th, maybe. I don't even think they work anymore. But while they are home doing whatever they're doing, they got hit with Donald Trump's financial disclosure, or at least what I think is a partial financial disclosure, showing that he made billions and billions of dollars, at least $2 billion, but probably more, during the first year with 21,000 stock trades and crypto schemes. And of course, the stock trades, would happen right around like lifting the tariffs, which he said were going to be great and make everybody rich. But when he paused the tariffs, his investment accounts made 327 stock purchases that day before he paused the tariffs. Do you remember when I would be showing, I think the account is called Unusual Whales or something, where they would show like an account that would make like a massive trade? I can't say for sure that one was him, but that sure looks like what was going down. So now the MAGA Republicans who were railing about Hunter Biden selling a $50,000 painting or whatever, or being on the Burisma board, when Biden was not in office, by the way, like when Biden was out of office, Hunter was on was on a board, but he went to Yale Law School and he had sat on boards before. But that's what they spent all of their time railing against. So now, when faced with billions and billions and billions of dollars, the worst form of Bernie Madoff behavior, they're saying, well, he's telling us. So there's nothing wrong if he's saying that he's a crook and a criminal. The difference is that we just say things that aren't true about the Bidens, and then we investigate them, and then we still make up the lies about him. But here we see in the financial disclosure that Donald Trump published, he just told us what he was doing. First off, I believe that disclosure is probably just the tip of the iceberg. He didn't release it when he was supposed to release it, which is also a massive red flag. If you see, as Donald Trump said when he was running, I can shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue, and if I did it, nobody would care anyway. Well, his party wouldn't, but it still constitutes murder if you do it on Fifth Avenue in front of everybody, okay? And the MAGA Republicans, to play that metaphor out a little more, yes, shooting somebody on Fifth Avenue is different than what would be the equivalent of, I don't know, a parking infraction, which was what they tried to make Hunter Biden's thing into the biggest thing ever, versus someone shooting everybody on Fifth Avenue. It seems like what Trump's doing. This is what James Comer has been saying right now. He was interviewed by Notice, and he was like, it's just what we do. Here, play this clip.
If you ask Donald Trump Jr., are you on a board for this crypto company? Are you on the board for this predictions market company? Are you on the board for this drone company? He will say, yes, I am. If you ask the president, the family, did you all do this development overseas in this country? Yes, it's the best development ever. It's going to be blah, 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 blah. They're transparent. If you ask Joe Biden, did you take money from China? No, I don't know what you're talking about. No one in my family took money. Well, then I subpoena their bank records, and guess what? There's money from China in there. Millions of dollars for what? You may not like what some of the deals that the Trump family's been involved in, but we know about them. The Democrats say, oh, you should be investigating Trump. For what? Well, his son's on a board of a drone company. What's to investigate? He's on the board of a drone company. Whereas the Bidens lied about everything. They completely lied, and to continue to lie to this day. So there's a big difference. Now, nothing that I've seen that the president's family's done illegal. As far as I know, they're paying taxes. They've been transparent. Now, we can have ethics laws that would ban president's family from doing X, Y, or Z, but we don't. There are no laws on the books. Maybe there should be, but there aren't.
Because you're voting against those ethics laws, how do you know he's paying his? What are you basing that on? He made a deal by suing the government for $10 billion back in January, where he settled and gave himself a super pardon that says he doesn't have to pay taxes on this money, basically. I want to bring in Brian Tyler Cohen. It's the height of offensiveness there, Brian. I want to get your reaction to that, but I want to remind everybody to make sure you go and get The Day After, How to Wield Power in a Post-Trump World, out in bookstores right now, a forward by Mark Elias. Brian Tyler Cohen's new book. It's out now. Make sure you all get it. Order it right now. Brian, you see something like that, what's your reaction to it?
I mean, James Comer is saying that if you ask Donald Trump if his family is making money hand over fist by taking jobs in all of these companies that are suddenly getting government contracts, and he'll say, well, yes, I am. Yes, I am on the board of all these companies. You're exactly right. When you say him thinking, James Comer suggesting that all of this corruption and self-dealing is okay because they'll admit it is just so backwards. Being forthright about the fact that you are engaging in corruption does not absolve the fact that you are engaging in corruption. And the reality is, if
Total Battle. Play now for free.
This settlement check completely changed my life, and it came from a car accident I almost forgot about. I'm honestly shaking as I record this. I never imagined something this big could come from an accident that felt so small at the time. If you've been in any kind of vehicle accident in the past 2 years, even if you think it was minor, even if you were just a passenger, you might be entitled to far more than you realize. Here's my story. I was stopped at a red light when, bam, a distracted driver slammed into me from behind. My neck felt a little stiff, but the car seemed okay. We exchanged info and I drove home. Big mistake. Over the next few weeks, the pain got worse. I started missing work. My car developed issues I hadn't noticed right away. The insurance company tossed me a tiny offer and basically said, take it or leave it. I almost did. Then my sister's boyfriend Marcus told me about something called free case evals. He said, dude, just answer 4 questions. What's the worst that could happen? At first, I thought he was exaggerating, but he had used the exact same tool after his own accident and told me it changed everything for him. So I clicked the link, answered 4 simple questions, and in less than 30 seconds, it told me I might actually qualify for a real settlement. I figured, yeah, right. But I had nothing to lose. A couple of months later, I was holding a settlement check that was dozens of times higher than what insurance first offered me. And here's where it gets crazy. I shared this tool with 5 people I know who'd been in accidents. My coworker Diana, just a passenger in an Uber, thought she had no case. She ended up with a life-changing settlement. My neighbor Kevin thought his accident from over a year ago was too late. It wasn't. My cousin Ashley, a bike accident with a car door. My buddy Ryan swore it was too minor to matter. He was wrong. Even my mom's friend Janet, she's in her late 60s, barely uses technology, but with some help, she filed and was shocked at the result. 5 people, 5 different situations, and all of them discovered they were entitled to way more than they thought. Here's what nobody tells you. Insurance companies have one job: to pay you as little as possible. They count on you not knowing your rights. But this tool changes everything. You don't need to understand law. You don't need to hunt for some random attorney. You just click the link below this video, answer 4 basic questions, and it instantly checks if your case qualifies. If you do, they connect you with a specialist who handles everything. No upfront fees, no court dates, no fighting insurance companies yourself. A year ago, I would have accepted that tiny insurance payout and considered myself lucky. But knowledge is power. Diana was just a passenger. Kevin thought his case was expired. Ryan thought his was too minor. Even Janet, who can barely send a text, discovered what was possible. The craziest part? Most accident victims leave massive amounts of money behind, simply because they don't know a tool like this exists. Insurance companies love when you stay in the dark. But you're watching this video right now, which means you don't have to. Whether you were driving, riding as a passenger, walking, cycling, or even in an Uber, if someone else caused your accident in the past 2 years, you deserve to know what you may actually be entitled to. Don't make the same mistake I almost made. Don't let insurance companies dictate what your pain is worth. Click the link below, answer 4 simple questions, and see if your accident qualifies. If you do, the free Case Evals team does the heavy lifting for you. You just wait for answers. Thousands of people across the country have already done this and discovered settlements they never thought possible. Imagine the relief of finally covering bills, paying down debt, or getting back on your feet after such a stressful experience. But you'll never know unless you check. The clock is ticking. Don't wait until it's too late. Click the link now and discover what your case might really be worth. Free Case Evals, 30 seconds, 4 questions. Start today.
Joe Biden or Barack Obama or the Clintons did 1/1000th of what is happening at the Trump administration, of what is happening with Trump and his family. If they got 1/1000th of the amount of money that Don Jr. is making because he suddenly works at a drone company or a prediction market company, they would be apoplectic, and rightfully so. There would be investigations into this from now until the sun burns out. But because it's Trump, they're sitting here and pretending with a straight face that him almost tripling his net worth and his family making hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars, is somehow completely acceptable because they pay their taxes, which of course James Comer has no idea because he doesn't run the IRS. And frankly, the IRS probably wouldn't even say if Donald Trump wasn't paying his taxes because of the extent to which Trump is willing to wield the federal government as his own personal weapon and profit machine. So look, I don't think it's lost on anybody if you watch James Comer try and do apologia for Donald Trump making billions of dollars at the taxpayer's expense, while he's just engaging in the most gross self-dealing that we've ever seen. I mean, like, Jimmy Carter sold his peanut farm. What are we doing here? You know?
Look, you have Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, who are in business with Trump and in business with the Middle East countries, acting as envoys on the most delicate matters of war and peace. They're not State Department officials. They're not they're not appointed to anything. And the question, even if you assume that Trump made these disclosures the right way, which he did not, who in the right mind thinks that he's actually paying his taxes right now? Does anybody truly think that dude is paying accurate capital gains and accurate income? Like, come on. Like, I'm giving you my opinion, of course, but like, I would not be shocked if we found out it was a big donut hole of what he's been paying each of the, I think that's the more likely scenario. But just if you take James Comer's supposition through, so you wouldn't want to know what Saudi Arabia was getting in return for their investment, what the UAE was getting in return for their investment, what Qatar was getting in return for their investment, what Pakistan was getting in return for their investment, and why it also seems that the countries Donald Trump doesn't really like, EU, Ukraine, are people who don't invest directly in him. They may invest in America in treasuries, but they're not personally investing in him, and that his whole worldview is shaped around those disclosures, which are, in my view, 5% of what actually is happening, which is bad as it is. But there's all of that. And that's what we need to know. People have died on a mass scale, and the speed costs of—
Okay, why did nobody teach me that when you get a credit card, you're actually not supposed to spend the entire balance? When I got a card with a $2,000 credit limit, I thought I was actually supposed to use it. Turns out, a big part of how good your credit is depends on how much you're actually using. It wasn't until I tried this credit building app called Kickoff that I saw how much my high utilization was holding my credit back and how to break through. There is no credit check. Sign up with Kickoff and get a $750 line of credit. Instead of funding a shopping shopping spree. It's funding your financial freedom. Pay a few bucks a month to pay off that plan. Set up auto pay. All of this credit building genius can go to work for you in the background. In the eyes of credit bureaus, you're paying your bills on time and keeping your credit utilization really low. Kickoff can also help you find and dispute errors on your credit report that you didn't even know about. Tap here to start building your credit today with Kickoff.
Prices of everyday essentials getting you down? Here's something to lift you up. Giant is now on Upside. You can earn up to $15 on every grocery run. A full cart that's lighter on your wallet. That's a breath of fresh air. Download the Upside app and get a $10 bonus on your first purchase.
Of those disclosures.
And it's also worth noting, like, all of this is a violation of the Emoluments Clause, which is in the Constitution. It is why we prevent heads of state from accepting gifts from other countries, because we don't know where their loyalties are going to lie. And so when Trump engages in these deals where he has Qatar and the UAE buying up his crypto and his stable coin and his meme coins and pumping money directly into his and his family's pockets, and then in turn, they get favorable deals. This is the exact reason that we have the Emoluments Clause in place. This is the exact reason that we have an oversight committee in place to be able to investigate exactly this. But because James Comer is lodged so far up Trump's ass that he could touch the back of the guy's teeth, of course he won't investigate any of this. After all, he's got to spend his time investigating Act Blue and whatever other Democratic organizations exist out there. So his plate is full. He couldn't possibly investigate the hundreds of billions of dollars going directly from a foreign company into the president's pocket so that he can reward them with favorable trade terms or whatever else it is that they're looking to get.
Now, look, what you and I are trying to build and what we've built, and hat tip to Brian, because he's the OG in this area. Before there was Midas, there was Brian Tyler Cohen on YouTube, to be very clear about the sequence of everything. And but we're building independent media, and I think it's been helpful in getting the message out to people directly. But how do we combat? And you're seeing it over the past 24 hours. You're seeing, Mamdani made a suggestion that was the exact suggestion that they made in Texas during heat waves, the exact suggestion that's on the Department of Energy website. Hey, be careful. The power grid's working overtime. We don't want to overheat it because then that could result in real serious issues. So think about turning your thermostat to 78 degrees Fahrenheit, unplug devices, care about the neighbors. Boom, state regime media, Fox, and all these other right-wing media that are funded with trillions of dollars. Hey, commie mom Donnie, you don't tell my thermostat, the thermostat, da. And they push that, man, and pop, 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 coordinated like never before. I mean, like you see that with them. And then that's their outrage machine versus, hey, like, y'all realize that the frickin' Strait of Hormuz is basically still closed? Do you realize that Donald Trump got us in this catastrophic war, that he's made up a fake board of peace, that he claims there's a ceasefire in Gaza when there isn't and thousands of people are still dying, that he blew up a little girls' school in Iran and slaughtered 168 girls? I mean, it's tan suit stuff all over again, and that's where they go. So, this is what you got to talk about in the book, and why people got to see the book also, because how do you wield power in that type of environment?
So I think this is the perfect testament to why the left has to be more comfortable fighting. The reality is they're not discerning. The right is not discerning about the lies, the misinformation, the disinformation that they're going to put forward. They're not going to mention that when they complain about Zoran Mamdani requesting gently that people collectively keep their thermostats at 78, that's the exact same policy that's on the Department of Energy's website, or at least it was on the Department of Energy's website, if they haven't taken it down by now. It's the exact same type of thing that Greg Abbott asked Texans to do when they were dealing with their freeze. It's the exact same thing Nikki Haley asked South Carolinians to do when they were dealing with their low temperatures. So this is nothing new, but they have a very well-funded and very ingrained right-wing media machine that just hums along, and it goes from Zero Hedge and Alex Jones all the way up to Megyn Kelly and the Daily Wire, all the way up to OAN and Newsmax, then Fox, and eventually the president of the United States. And again, they have no scruples about this stuff. They're not discerning about what they push forward. And so I think Democrats have to get much more comfortable with the idea of not just investing in the independent media space and embracing this space. And I know that you have been an absolute champion at doing that. And the growth, the astronomical growth that Midas has seen is a testament to the hunger for people out there for this kind of news. And frankly, Ben, you and your team's competence in this space, and so you deserve a huge amount of credit for trying to help us achieve parity in the pro-democracy ecosystem with this 10 to 15-year-old project that they've been engaged in on the right. And also kudos to everybody who's watching, because more people consume independent media now than even consume their news on linear TV. So everybody watching is a big part of that, a big part of the message that we're sending to the establishment, that we're not going to be willing to settle for the both sides media that we've been saddled with for so long, where, you know, everything that Republicans say is going to be treated as if it's sacrosanct, even though it's blatantly, you know, misinformation or disinformation. But beyond that, just this idea of getting comfortable fighting. The book talks about wielding power, how Democrats have refused to wield power and how Republicans have abused their power. And that asymmetry is so vast that it got us into the position that we're in right now, where we often have so many Democrats who are just perfectly content to heap deference or goodwill onto the other side in hopes that they'll come back and do bipartisanship or do compromise or, offer some reciprocation, and it never happens. And we cannot be beholden to the politics of a bygone era. We have to be focused on dealing with the Republican Party that we're dealing with today. And this is a Republican Party that doesn't even want to engage in democracy. This is an anti-democratic Republican Party, small d Democratic Republican Party. And so if we don't start fighting like democracy is at risk, is in existential peril, then we're going to lose it. You've heard the famous quote, a republic if you can keep it. That means that we have to take an active approach to actually trying to keep it. And it starts with recognizing our opponent, recognizing that we have to actually fight fire with fire. And only after we do that will we have any hope of making sure that we can take power again.
Everybody, make sure you order your copy right now. Here it is, The Day After, How to Wield Power in a Post-Trump World. And Brian, if you can, just remind our viewers and listeners, some of the money's going to a great cause as well.
So some of the money is going to go, I'm going to donate proceeds from every single book sold to Mark Elias's 501c3 called the Free Election Fund. Mark Elias's team is engaged in about 84 lawsuits across the country right now. And those are lawsuits to protect voting rights, to protect democracy. And those are funded by donations that go to the Free Election Fund. And so I wanted to make the decision not just to talk the talk about the importance of protecting democracy and expanding voting rights, but actually walk the walk. And so myself, along with my publisher, along with my editor, all three of us are going to 3 times match the amount of proceeds that we're going to donate to the Free Election Fund and continue to support election litigation, which has never been more important, but especially important as we head toward midterms and Republicans continue to engage in this anti-democratic behavior.
Everybody get a copy of the book now. Order it as soon as this YouTube video ends, or the audio, wherever you're getting it, The Day After, How to Wield Power in a Post-Trump World. Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Ben.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MidasPlus.com.
When I got a pay cut, Dave helped me get cash, up to $500 in 5 minutes or less. I definitely use Dave to pay bills in advance. I can also eat pizza and go roller skating and enjoy life. Download Dave today.
Instead of day trading, gambling, or trading crypto, try using the Acorns app to invest your money. Acorns makes it easy to invest with their recurring investments feature, which allows you to invest on a daily, weekly, or monthly time frame, and a diversified portfolio of ETFs containing stocks and bonds. Turns out, slow and steady isn't boring, especially when your money can grow over time. Get started today by downloading the Acorns app.
If Trump 2.0 can be summed up at this point by any one thing, it is the fight over who owns the truth. Whether hard questions will be allowed, whether Donald Trump, Elon Musk, Fox News, Paramount, and other Trump allies and assets will be permitted to squash the truth and dissent top to bottom. Or, current number 2, whether the First Amendment and journalistic freedom will be allowed to survive during this administration. Yesterday, Donald Trump's allies at Paramount and CBS made it clear that their commitment to quelling dissent and knocking out some of those truth tellers is very much underway. Even if they have to destroy one of that network's, one of television's most storied and valuable assets in the process of doing that. Veteran 60 Minutes correspondent Scott Pelley has been fired. That happened after he clashed with Barry Weiss's hand-picked brand new executive producer of 60 Minutes, a guy named Nick Bilton, in a staff meeting earlier this week. They clashed after Pelley pressed Bilton about the firing of several of his colleagues and the quashing of stories that were unflattering to the Trump administration. In the statement, Scott Pelley said this, quote, "The waste is heartbreaking. Last month, 60 Minutes lost its DNA when our entire senior leadership and 2 of our best on-air correspondents were cruelly fired without cause. Good people were silenced because they stood up for our audience. They stood for fairness against the forces of political bias. They stood for professionalism against chaos. For my part, new management has instructed me to inject falsehoods and bias into a politically sensitive story. I've been told to include assertions that are unverified. To date, in every case, I have managed to ignore these instructions or refuse them. Recently, politicians have been invited to choose correspondents for interviews on the broadcast. Giving politicians control over 60 Minutes interviews is not how this is done. Finally, incompetence and unprofessionalism in the new management have wreaked havoc. In a case involving one of my stories, the entire program came within 19 minutes of not getting on the air at all. The collapse of values at the top has become untenable. The leadership of 60 Minutes is no longer recognizable. The principles I hold dear are gone, and so I must leave as well. I depart after 37 years at CBS with one emotion, a heart brimming with gratitude for the men and women of CBS News who encouraged and enriched my work, very often at the risk of their own lives. I pray for a day when those people and their ideals are honored again. A day when sanity, competence, and courage return.
Total Battle. Play now for free.
According to a recording of that staff meeting in question held earlier today, obtained by multiple outlets, including the New York Times. Embattled CBS News editor-in-chief Barry Weiss said this about Scott Pelley's dismissal, quote, "I'm only interested in working in a newsroom that's built on trust and mutual respect. We cannot do our work without it. That foundation was broken Monday." It's an assertion Pelley pushes back on forcefully, adding this in a statement, quote, "Barry Weiss knows what she said is not true. In the meeting Tuesday in which I was effectively fired, there was no effort of any kind to, quote, find a way back," as Barry Weiss said in the editorial meeting. At no point did anyone in the Tuesday meeting suggest that there could be steps taken by either side that would lead to a resolution. Barry Weiss and president and executive editor of CBS News, Tom Sabrowski, were openly hostile from the start. Firing was raised by Tom Sabrowski in the first 15 seconds. No CBS executive at any time suggested a way back. To say so now is disingenuous, and they know it. Scott Pelley joins a legion of other respected, dare I say, revered journalists who have been silenced, reprimanded, or fired for doing what journalists do, asking hard questions, many of whom have now spoken up on his behalf, including his former colleague, Sharon Alfonsi, who was also fired from 60 Minutes. She writes this, quote, "He was fired for asking questions, which is the job. If you need one sentence that tells you exactly what CBS News has become under Barry Weiss, that is it. Journalists who ask questions are being systematically replaced by people who won't. And that's not a side effect of what's happening at 60 Minutes. It's the goal." CNN anchor Don Lemon, who was arrested and has faced federal civil rights charges after filming anti-ICE protests in Minnesota, posted this video on social media.
Scott Pelley is not wrong. He is telling the truth. So if the management of CBS's goals are to ruin the news franchise and to put 60 Minutes out of business or for it to lose their credibility, they're doing a very good job at it.
Former CNN White House correspondent Jim Acosta, who frequently clashed with Donald Trump, posted this warning. Watch that.
What the Ellisons and Barry Weiss are doing to CBS is unconscionable. It's unforgivable. And as I've said many times, when 60 Minutes is in trouble, we are all in trouble. And we are.
Those 5-alarm warnings about the current fight over the First Amendment and journalistic freedom and truth, and just how much we all stand to lose if this fight is lost, is where we start today. I want to bring in those two now independent journalists, longtime CNN correspondent and anchor Jim Acosta, who now hosts the Jim Acosta Show on Substack, is here. And joining me at the table, Don Lemon, also a longtime CNN anchor. He's now the host of the Don Lemon Show, which he streams live twice a day on YouTube. He's also written about his experience leaving network news in his book, I Once Was Lost, which is fantastic and must read. I have to say, I'm nervous. I'm such a fan of both of yours. I never miss anything either of you say. And in this moment, I turned to what I went looking for what you both had to say when this news broke. And I wonder if you can just speak out about what the new where the new trust paradigm is in journalism.
Well, I must say that when something like this happens, it triggers, there's a trigger there all over again, what I write about in the book, the day it happened to me, because as you were reading Scott Pelley's story, it's so similar to my story. And so I would imagine even people who didn't end up, having to leave a network or pushed out or whatever it is, just journalists in general are triggered by this, producers, writers. And I think about all the people who are over at CBS now who are still fighting the good fight. There are hundreds of them over there, and they are committed to making 60 Minutes continue to be the news program that it is and that it deserves to be. However, I hate to be a fatalist, but I think it's a fait accompli. I don't think that the management of CBS cares at this point. So where's the trust? Where's the fidelity? I think the trust and the fidelity is toward, at least in this situation and many others, and some maybe in my own, it's toward the corporation, not necessarily towards the journalist or journalism. I think that pushing a news organization in a certain political, ideological direction is anathema to journalists, to true journalists. It may be good, they think, for the corporation. It's not. It never works. Right. It never works if you say, we think your network is liberal, so we need to move it to the right. You're not going to get that. People who watch Fox News are not going to tune into MSNBC or CNN the way that they tune into Fox News. It's just never going to happen. And then you lose your core audience, and then where are you? The ratings are actually worse.
The thing about blowing up 60 Minutes, though, for no reason other than it would appear this political project.
9% growth. That's unheard of in this day and age.
And a digital supernova.
Yeah, why are you should be protecting that in a glass box that's saying do not touch. Now, if they want to touch something, then they should go and try to fix the CBS Evening News or perhaps fix the CBS Mornings. But 60 Minutes is the tent pole, and right now they're chipping away at that tent pole, and the tent is sagging.
Jim, I want to ask you, I mean, Scott Pelley went into a meeting and did what I think most journalists are hardwired to do, sort of protected his team members on the field, right? Stuck up for Sharon Alfonsi and Cecilia Vega and two producers who have been fired, one of whom he asserts had to go to HR to be fired. What do you think the message is that they're clearly trying to send?
I think the message that the people at CBS are sending people like Barry Weiss is be afraid. We are in control. We are in charge. And as Don was saying, make no mistake, they don't care about the ratings. They don't care about making money. This is an ideological and partisan political project on the part of the Ellisons, the Trump-friendly Ellisons who now control Paramount, who, by the way, are trying to take control of WBD and CNN and turn it into this giant media conglomerate that will essentially act like a state media organization in support of Donald Trump. And I think the folks at CBS, people like Barry Weiss and so on, they need to look at themselves in the mirror and ask themselves the question, is what I'm doing good for America? Is what I'm doing good for democracy? Is what I'm doing good for the free press? And I think the answer is unquestionably no. And when Scott Pelley is saying that the people at CBS are telling him to inject political bias and falsehoods into his reporting, that should be a hair on fire moment for all Americans. And Don and I, we have felt these pressures. And, you know, this is a very serious moment in this country right now. The American people need to be aware of what's taking place. Donald Trump, he's gone after Stephen Colbert. He's trying to go after Jimmy Kimmel. They're trying to put together a state-dominated media system in this country, and it has to be stopped.
The irony in all this is, Jim mentioned, I forgot Barry Weiss, that she owned a journalistic outlet called the Free Press, right? And when you think about what is the irony in that. But look, I think that Jim is right. In this moment, this is a very dangerous moment. And not only do I feel the folks who are in charge, the management, the people in the C-suites, the owners, it's their fault, but I also think that I think Scott Pelley is an example to all journalists. And if you are in that position, in a way, if I was still there, I might feel a bit embarrassed that I had not stood up. And I understand that people have obligations. You got mortgages, you got all of those things. But I look at journalism in a very similar way as I do an attorney, do no harm, a doctor, do no harm, and you take an oath. And if someone is giving you not necessarily an illegal order, it's something that goes against journalistic principles, I don't believe that you should follow it.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening in this moment. And it's, the people who are standing up are the people who have the least power, I believe, in this moment. Maybe in an odd way, we have a power that we don't really understand. But a lot of our corporate friends are not standing up. And here you have Jim Acosta and me and others who are in independent media, and we are fighting the fight without the big corporation, without the big attorneys, without all the money that goes along with it. Mm-hmm. We're out here in these independent streets fighting it. And, people who have much more agency and influence in this are not standing up. So journalists, stand up. If you're in a position and they're telling you to do something that, like Scott Pelley said they were telling him to do,
to insert things that
don't do it. Yeah. Just and tell them. Right. And look, I think when I left, I was disappointed that the people who did not come to my defense, there were many, and they were told that they couldn't. That's what I've heard from folks, that they were told that they couldn't. But I think people in this moment need to stand up for Scott Pelley. I think people need to be a Scott Pelley instead of, one of those people, one of those lackeys who go on television every day or every night and just lie and stand up for Donald Trump even when he's wrong. We should all be a Scott Pelley. Scott Pelley should be an example to us. We should all support him. His story is our story. If we lose the First Amendment, the freedom of the press, it is over. This whole experiment that we have towards a more perfect union is over. It is the First Amendment is the bedrock of our Constitution, and without it, nothing else stands.
I mean, Jim, I feel like it's important to point out that they've made a lot of progress toward destroying the free press. I mean, CNN is now potentially going to be under the same management as CBS. Fox News is watching their right flank, not watching anything from mainstream truth-centered journalism. You've got the Washington Post being hollowed out under Jeff Bezos. I mean, they've made extraordinary perhaps the only place they've made as much progress is at the Department of Justice, which has been hollowed out just as quickly.
Yeah, there's no question about it. I mean, we already have one Fox in this country. Do we need two? I don't think we need two. But they're on the verge of creating a second Fox News in this country. And you're absolutely right. And what Don was saying a few moments ago is absolutely right. The free press is in danger in this country right now. And, you know, there are a lot of journalists who can do something about it and a lot of corporate executives who can do something about it. I mean, look at the Truth Social post that Donald Trump put out earlier this year, where he was taking credit for all of these hosts and anchors that he had booted from their jobs. I thought all those things were programming decisions. That's how it was described in the press. The executives at these companies said these were just programming decisions. What are you talking about? Donald Trump had nothing to do with it. But he also bragged about the new management at CBS, the new management at CNN. He bragged about the Ellisons taking over TikTok. So we need to understand what's the defunding of PBS and NPR. So we need to understand what is taking place in this country right now. The information systems, the delivery system of news in this country is under attack by the people inside the government. Brendan Carr has bragged about this openly at CPAC conferences. And so this is a concerted, sustained effort, and they're not stopping. This is not like, oh, Barry Weiss is incompetent. She doesn't know how to run a news division. That's not what this is at all. When the anchor of the CBS Evening News,
she doesn't.
Yeah, when Tony Ducouple is on the Evening News at the beginning of all of this saying, "We salute you, Marco Rubio," and oh, by the way, there are both sides to January 6th, and that's happening on the CBS Evening News. I used to work at CBS many years ago. My God, what would Walter Cronkite and Dan Rather and Bob Schieffer and all the legends of that company, Edward R. Murrow, what would they think of that? They would be absolutely appalled. And so Barry Weiss, you know, she needs to understand, she may think she's hot stuff right now after creating the free press and everything. She is being used by the far right now to destroy a storied news organization and to quote unquote murder the nation's most important news magazine. And if I were her, I would slow my roll, because this is not going to a good place, it seems to me.
History is not going to look fondly on the person of persons who destroyed the most storied news journalism magazine show in anywhere, not just in America. It's not going to look fondly on that. And I'm glad you said that it's murdering. Yes, Barry Weiss is murdering CBS News. She's murdering, helping to murder and end journalism in the First Amendment. And she should be very aware of that, especially someone who has an organization or owned a news organization called the Free Press. She needs to let the press be free. But I just don't want to end this moment, Jim. I think that you're right. This is not about whether she's competent or not. We know that she's not competent. We know that the person that they hired to run 60 Minutes is not competent as a tech journalist. Why would you do that? This moment, I think, is very much about the guts that Scott Pelley has and what he's doing in the moment. And Jim knows very well, I know what it's like to stand up to an organization like that, to call them on their lies publicly. That takes balls to do. And we should all have that. There's one regret. I don't have very many regrets. But one of the biggest regrets out of very few is that I did not stand up for myself enough in the moment when something similar was happening to me. That I could not respond in the press, because it's in your contract. You can't put out a press statement. And so the fact that Scott Pelley is doing that, I think it's remarkable. And I think every journalist in this country should be lauding him, standing up for him, praising him, putting out statements. And every journalist in this country should be a Scott Pelley and not someone's name I can mention who is on a different network.
Let me ask you a question, Jim Acosta, that people actually ask me on the street. They ask me, why don't the White House correspondents stick up for one another when Trump calls one of them a piggy or a terrible reporter or attacks their news organization. What's your best theory of an answer to that question?
Top 5 credit hacks if you have below a 600. At number 1 is Kickoff.
This is my favorite credit hack that I literally tell everyone about.
If your credit's under 600, you can jump 25 points in your first month.
84 points in just your first year with on-time payment.
Sign up and you can get up to a $3,500 kickoff check with no credit check.
I have yet to find an easier way to raise credit, so here's how it works.
You just pay a couple bucks a month and put your payments on autopay.
So they're always paid on time.
Just set it once and you're done.
Kickoff reports these to the major credit bureaus.
You can apply so fast with no credit check, hidden fees, and zero interest.
It's the #1 credit builder in the App Store.
It's easy to use, signing up is fast, and it's helping a lot of people out.
There's a reason over 1 million people have used Kickoff.
It worked for me, so I know it can work for you.
Download Kickoff right now.
Switch up your whole vibe anytime, based on your mood. It's super easy. Just pick a bubble style you like, then match it with the perfect wallpaper. And that's it. Head to TikTok now and customize your chat interface.
Fresh social features, more ways to connect.
Boy, I wish he would say "quiet piggy" to me. You would definitely get a different response.
I'm sure he'd say it to me if he got a chance.
Oh my gosh, we all I think feel the same way.
When he's calling people piggy, where has he been anywhere for like the last 7 days? I haven't seen him.
Does he on the mirror, Jim, when he's calling people piggy?
I think he got
the last I heard is he passed this cognitive test. That's the last thing I heard. But he knew which one the camel was. So he says. And if there's a moment that calls for investigative journalism right now, it's now. I mean, they just announced Bill Pulte as the head of the Director of National Intelligence. I mean, if there's a moment that calls for investigative journalism, it's now. But to your question, Nicole, so I don't do the thing that us TV people do, which is not answer the question. No, I mean, to me, you know, there are a lot of people who are very hooked on these cushy gigs that they get in Washington, D.C., and they don't want to, you know, ruffle any feathers and jeopardize that. But at the same time, we've got a lot of good people in this business. When Trump came after me and called me the enemy of the people, Peter Alexander, the wonderful Peter Alexander, stood up for me in that moment. We need more moments like that. And part of the reason why it doesn't happen, Nicole, is because you have a lot of bosses in this business. And I may not be ingratiating myself with the TV bosses these days, but you have a lot of bosses who will put pressure on their employees to not do that, to not get involved, to not stand up for their colleagues. And when I worked at CNN, Jeff Zucker, he was in my corner 100%. And if something like that were to go down and I were to, step in and say what needs to be said, he would call me afterwards and say, that's the way to do it. Way to go, Jim. Mm-hmm. And we just don't have bosses like that anymore. We have a deficit of courage and honor in this country right now. And we need to get back to it. I don't understand what these television executives are doing right now. They're behind the curve. The American people have decided they don't want cage matches in the backyard of the White House. They don't want this country to get turned into an authoritarian nightmare. And the news executives are acting as though, if we just placate Donald Trump, we'll get through this. The storm will pass. It's sort of like what the Republicans say to each other up on Capitol Hill. The storm will pass. Well, tell that to some of these guys who just got primaried. Tell that to John Cornyn. Tell that to some of these guys who aren't going to be sticking around Washington anymore. There is a price to be paid for cowardice. And I think courage can be contagious. And it seems to me right now, what we need right now is an injection of courage inside these news organizations, because they're behind the curve. The American people are way ahead of where this industry is right now.
When I got a pay cut, Dave helped me get cash, up to $500 in 5 minutes or less. I definitely use Dave to pay bills in advance. I love that there are no hidden fees with Dave. I know everything up front. I also love the fact that I'm able to do the things that I want to do. I can go skating, I can take the kids to the movies, I can go eat pizza. You know that at the end of the day, you do not have to stop living. That's why I like Dave. It's good for my wallet and good for my mind.
What do you think the average person forgets about investing?
how much it could actually shape their future's potential. Acorns designed the potential screen to show you how investing anything from $5 a day to just your spare change could actually impact your future. Don't forget your potential. See it with Acorns.
Well, Washington agrees on something. It is officially a slush fund. That is the agreed upon Washington term for Donald Trump's fund for paying people who committed crimes for Donald Trump. Democrats started calling it a slush fund right away, but now Republicans are calling it a slush fund. Former Republican Senate leader Mitch McConnell called it a slush fund today. Mitch McConnell, who is the senior senator from Kentucky, can now be counted as a no vote on Donald Trump's slush fund when it comes to a vote in the United States Senate. Sometimes it's difficult to find the right word, the right phrase, the right label for the latest Trumpian madness, the latest Trumpian crime against sanity. But now Republicans and Democrats agree it's a slush fund. We will soon have polling on Donald Trump's slush fund. But as of now, every new poll that comes out already shows Donald Trump at new lows in that poll. Imagine how much lower Donald Trump is going to go in the next round of polls that begin next week or later, when the slush fund finally gets factored into the polls. Senator Mitch McConnell's official statement today was simple. So the nation's top law enforcement official is asking for a slush fund to pay people who assault cops. Utterly stupid, morally wrong. Take your pick. The answer is, of course, both. You don't have to pick. The answer is utterly stupid and morally wrong. That's Donald Trump. Republican Senator Tom Tillis is now the best Republican phrase maker opposing Donald Trump's slush fund, calling it a, quote, payout pot for punks and stupid on stilts and tyranny.
I think it's stupid on stilts.
Why?
Because it will invariably put us in a position where your taxpayer dollars and my taxpayer dollars could potentially compensate someone who assaulted a police officer, admitted their guilt, got convicted, got pardoned, and now we're going to pay them for that? That's absurd. The American people are going to reject this out of hand. When you take money from me to give to a purpose that I vehemently disagree with, that's tyranny.
Other Republican senators willing to speak publicly against Donald Trump's fund already include Senator Bill Cassidy, who recently lost his reelection primary to a Trump-endorsed opponent, and Senator Lisa Murkowski. The Democrats would only need 4 Republicans to join them to defeat the Trump slush fund in the United States Senate, and it appears tonight as if they clearly have those 4 votes already, and possibly many more Republican votes in the Senate against the Trump slush fund. And the Republican votes matter because it's the Republican votes that will kill the slush fund. The Democrats don't have enough votes to kill the slush fund, but with the Republicans, they can do it. And today, at the closed-door luncheon of Republican senators, almost half of them reportedly opposed the slush fund. Punchbowl News reports, quote, more than 20 senators spoke out against the administration's fund. It's rare for more than a handful of Republicans to speak up at those gatherings. When I worked in the Senate on the Democratic side and was one of the very few staffers allowed into the Senate Democratic luncheons, I'm not sure there was a single day where there were 20 senators speaking on an issue, even the most important issues of the day. One news account quoted anonymous sources from inside the room calling it a, quote, well, not exactly quote, calling it a crap show. And I cleaned that one up. It is very clear now that the United States Senate, with Democratic and Republican votes, is going to vote to kill the Trump slush fund. And Republican Senate Leader John Thune is doing absolutely nothing to save it. In fact, today, he did everything he could to kill it. by simply closing up the Senate and sending everyone home. From the start, John Thune said publicly that he was not a fan of the Trump slush fund. That was his phrase, not a fan. Majority leaders are very, very careful about every word they choose. And when a majority leader is trying to pass a bill, the leader is relentlessly positive about it in every word. If a majority leader says he's not a fan of a bill, that means he's not only willing to see senators oppose that bill, but it means he's actually trying to create a stampede against it. And today, John Thune did the worst thing you could possibly do to a bill that is in trouble. He sent the Senate on recess. Major holidays are used as important levers in the Senate to force votes. The Republican Senate has been trying to pass a reconciliation bill, which means it needs only 51 votes to pass, which means 50 Republican senators to vote for it, with the vice president then breaking the tie, and that would pass it. That's all it takes. A reconciliation bill should be the easiest possible thing for the Republican Senate to pass now. And what makes it even easier to pass is when you back it up against an important scheduled recess, like the Memorial Day recess, which will allow senators to leave town for a week. Some of them have foreign trips scheduled. Some of them have family vacations scheduled. Some of them have important graduations to attend. Some of them may have weddings to attend. And they all desperately want to leave town. And when senators desperately want to leave town, majority leaders like to use that pressure to force them to cast a vote before they leave town, an important vote, especially controversial votes, especially the difficult votes. John Thune had the power to force that vote, but he also knows how to count. And he didn't force the vote because he knew he didn't have the votes to force. And so rather than see Donald Trump's slush fund go down in defeat, John Thune decided to let the senators go home without voting. They were supposed to be voting right now, tonight. And then, if they were lucky, leave town tomorrow. There's only one thing that happens when you let senators leave town on a recess without casting that difficult vote. There's only one thing that happens. The vote only becomes more difficult. During their week away from the Senate, the Trump slush fund will only become more and more and more unpopular every single day. And when senators come back from their recess, having heard from their constituents whose tax money would pay for the Trump slush fund to pay criminals, there will be far more than 4 Republican senators opposed to Donald Trump's slush fund. And John Thune knows that. John Thune is sending Republican senators home knowing that they will come back even more opposed to Donald Trump's slush fund than they were today. Donald Trump knows he's losing. Donald Trump knows the Republican-controlled Senate now has the momentum to defeat his slush fund and to defeat his ballroom. Today, Donald Trump flip-flopped once again on the Strait of Hormuz and said that he is considering allowing Iran for the first time in history to charge tolls for ships passing through the Strait of Hormuz. Donald Trump has said that he is absolutely opposed to Iran charging tolls, and now he says he's thinking about it. He is simply the worst public negotiator in the history of American politics at any level, from president down to city councilor. Or it might be that Donald Trump's cognitive decline is so sharp now that he doesn't even know what he's saying when he's asked today about Iran charging tolls in the Strait of Hormuz.
Iran is negotiating with Oman to set up a formalization of charging tolls in the Strait of Hormuz. Is that acceptable to you?
Well, we're looking at it. We hear about it. They've negotiated. They've had a relationship with them before. And we'll see. We have total control of the Strait of Hormuz, as you know, with our blockade.
Total Battle. Play now for free.
This isn't just a pharmacy. This is getting medication right to your door with same-day delivery. When you fill your prescription at Walgreens, you can get back to what matters most.
We're looking at it. He was totally opposed to it. Now his line is, we're looking at it. We're considering allowing Iran to charge tolls in the Strait of Hormuz, something that has never happened in history, something that no president has ever allowed. And in the same response, Donald Trump claims we have total control of the Strait of Hormuz. And again, let's just consider how addled his brain has to be for him to say we have total control of the Strait of Hormuz. If he has total control of the Strait, why hasn't he reopened the Strait to free shipping that has existed during his entire lifetime until Iran closed it down because of Donald Trump's war? Donald Trump has finally found something. He's found one thing that he thinks maybe he shouldn't do during his Iran war because it would be inappropriate. Donald Trump has played golf 14 times during his war. Donald Trump spent 2 weekends of his war at golf tournaments. 2 weekends. Donald Trump went to the Ultimate Fighting Championship performance where he had a lot of fun with Joe Rogan and other fans for hours on end. But now, finally, in the 82nd day of Donald Trump's war, Donald Trump is concerned with appearances and says he will get killed this weekend if he does not at least pretend to be paying attention to his war. And by killed, of course, Donald Trump doesn't mean killed. It's a very bad choice of words for the warmonger president who started a war he doesn't know how to win and doesn't know how to end. He used the word killed to mean he'd be criticized. Suddenly, Donald Trump claims to be afraid of being criticized. The man who is being criticized by Republicans as utterly stupid and morally wrong for his slush fund claims he doesn't want to do anything this weekend that would get him criticized. And this is his reason for maybe not going to his son's wedding.
Attending your son's wedding this weekend, by the way? He'd like me to go, but it's going to be just a small little private affair, and I'm going to try and make it. I'm in the midst. I said, this is not good timing for me. I have a thing called Iran and other things. That's one I can't win on. If I do attend, I get killed. If I don't attend, I get killed. By the fake news, of course, I'm talking about. No, but he's got a very person who I've known for a long time, and hopefully they're going to have a great marriage.
Shine, shopping online. Download today and get started.
Prices of everyday essentials getting you down? Here's something to lift you up. Giant is now on Upside. You can earn up to $15 on every grocery run. A full cart that's lighter on your wallet. That's a breath of fresh air. Download the Upside app and get a $15 bonus on your first purchase.
President of the United States calling for the execution of members of Congress because they publicly recited the law is obviously a reason to invoke the 25th Amendment to remove that president from office for extreme mental incapacity and possible dementia. But the White House press corps, who would collectively scream at Joe Biden if he misstated a single word, never mind the law, never mind the Constitution, take it in stride when Donald Trump spews madness like that. Imagine what the country would have said about a president who announced he was no longer going to spell the words Supreme Court with a capital S and a capital C because he's mad at the Supreme Court. Prior to Donald Trump, that would have been taken as a conclusive indicator of madness and an incapacity to serve as president. But at 7:06 a.m. today, Donald Trump posted, "The Supreme Court will be using lowercase letters for a while based on a complete lack of respect!" exclamation point. If I tried that in the third grade at St. Brendan's Elementary School, I would have gotten in trouble for conduct beneath the dignity of a third grader. But the White House press corps accepts it. They have to accept it because the avalanche of madness is just too big. It's too big to catch up with every piece of it and react to it the way it should be reacted to. But if the next president has a typo in a social media post, you can bet the White House press corps will jump all over it, the way they always used to. Joe Biden's decision-making as president, which is what the job really is, it's decision-making, it's not athleticism, was as impressive as any president in history. And Donald Trump's decision-making is the worst, by far. Voters seem to recognize that now, with new polls showing that if the Biden versus Trump election were held today, Donald Trump would lose. Donald Trump is the only president demented or stupid enough to believe that the president has the unlimited power to set tariffs. Every other president knew what the Constitution says about that. Donald Trump doesn't know what the Constitution is or where to find one, and would be completely flummoxed by the prose style of the Constitution because it doesn't call America the hottest country in the world, a favorite Trump expression that does not refer to climate change, but he thinks sounds really cool and positive. Not a single faithful viewer of this program was even slightly surprised by the Supreme Court's decisive ruling on Friday that Donald Trump's tariffs are illegal and unconstitutional. We have been telling you that from this desk at this hour since Donald Trump illegally imposed his first tariff. Donald Trump is now threatening to impose a worldwide tariff of 15% on imports to the United States from everywhere in the world, a tariff that will be paid in the United States by Americans, like all Trump tariffs, and a tariff that is also illegal and unconstitutional.
Coinmaster. Play now.
Former acting Solicitor General in the Obama administration, Neil Katyal, argued the tariff case in the Supreme Court against the Trump tariffs and won on every single point that he argued to the court. On page 5 of Chief Justice John Roberts' opinion of the court, the chief quotes Article 1 of the Constitution saying, quote, "The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises." Duties are, of course, tariffs. And the Chief Justice exposed Donald Trump's tariffs for what they are, a sales tax paid by Americans. The chief wrote, "A tariff, after all, is a tax levied on imported goods and services." The Chief Justice was forced to write a sentence that no previous Supreme Court justice has ever had to write. Quote, "The United States, after all, is not at war with every nation in the world." That was the court's response to Donald Trump's claim of a national emergency that would justify his tariffs worldwide. The Chief Justice exposed Donald Trump's ludicrous lie that foreign countries pay the Trump illegally imposed tariffs. The chief wrote, "Tariffs operate directly on domestic importers to raise revenue for the Treasury. A domestic importer is a company here in the United States or a person here in the United States who has to pay the Trump tariffs only when the goods enter the United States." The opinion of the court could not have been simpler, and for such an important case, it could not have been shorter, only 21 pages. That's how simple it was. The decision was 6-3, with a silent Samuel Alito joining losers Clarence Thomas and Brett Kavanaugh. Brett Kavanaugh saw the opinion as an opportunity to file his 63-page application for the job of Chief Justice. Brett Kavanaugh's absurdly long and perversely twisted 63-page dissent was a juvenile exercise to impress one person who cannot read. Donald Trump, who struggles to read the simple words in big print in his teleprompters, obviously does not have the mental capacity to attempt to read a single sentence of a Supreme Court opinion or dissent. The ambitious Brett Kavanaugh is 61 years old, and if John Roberts retires anytime soon, Brett Kavanaugh would surely raise his hand requesting a promotion to Chief Justice, which would then leave the vacancy on the court to be filled by Donald Trump's most reliable judge of all, Judge Aileen Mercedes Cannon, the inexperienced federal judge in Florida, who today ruled that Jack Smith's written report of his investigation of Donald Trump's illegal possession of classified documents cannot be released to Congress or the public. Judge Cannon wants that report sealed away from history. That opinion, written today, is her 15-page application for a Supreme Court seat if 77-year-old Clarence Thomas decides he wants to spend the rest of his days living full-time in the vacation luxury provided to him by Republican billionaires. The Supreme Court decision means that everyone who paid the tariffs has a claim for a refund. The United States Treasury is the biggest refunder in the world. The Treasury knows exactly how to do this and could do it by computer easily. The Treasury has records of exactly who paid which tariffs at which port of entry, on which day, in what amount, just like the Treasury has precise records of every penny of tax withholding from your paychecks all year long. And when the Treasury finds that too much money was withheld from your paycheck, you become one of the 117 million people who gets a tax refund from the Treasury on April 15th. In a typical year, the Treasury refunds an estimated $300 billion to income tax filers. The Treasury knows how to do this, but Donald Trump's Treasury wants to keep that illegally collected money because that is now the official Republican Party position. If your government illegally takes your money, the government doesn't have to give it back to you. That's the Republican position. So Democrats, who already had a strong campaign position in the coming congressional elections, have a new question for voters to ask Republican candidates. Where's my refund? Multiple studies indicate that the average American spends thousands of dollars indirectly paying illegal Trump tariffs. So that means every voter has a moral right to ask, where's my refund? Eventually, the companies like the electronic stores and the grocery stores who paid the tariffs will get their refunds directly from the Treasury, but they will be under no obligation to pass those refunds along to consumers. So a Republican president has illegally taken roughly $200 billion from American voters, and Donald Trump and Republican members of Congress have absolutely no intention of even trying to give that money back. Every voter should ask every Republican candidate, where's my refund? And everyone at the next Trump rally should be shouting to their hero, Donald Trump, where's my refund? The overwhelming majority of Americans know who took their money. 64% disapprove of Donald Trump's tariffs in a Washington Post poll. And a CNN poll, 63% of Americans disapprove of Donald Trump. So that is almost 2/3 of Americans who know who took their money and who owes them a refund. 68% say Donald Trump hasn't paid enough attention to the country's most important problems. Those 68% are watching Donald Trump literally demolish the White House, and publicly spend his time concentrating on creating a temple to himself in its place, a completely unnecessary ballroom. How could there be a single voter out there who thinks Donald Trump cares more about them than he cares about his ballroom? 62% oppose Donald Trump's immigration and customs enforcement tactics. Tonight, another Republican member of the House of Representatives is facing calls to resign from Republicans after a Texas news website published text messages from Republican Congressman Anthony Gonzalez. Even some Republicans in the House now are calling for his resignation. Representative Republican Nancy Mace wrote, quote, "These text messages are disgusting and inexcusable. A member of Congress harassing his own staffer in the middle of the night, asking for explicit photos, pressing her on sexual positions. Regina Santos Aviles told him he was going too far. He did not care. He kept going. She is gone now. Her son is growing up without his mother. And Tony Gonzalez is campaigning like nothing happened. We have zero tolerance for those who abuse their power over others. Zero. It does not matter what party you are in, what title you hold, or how powerful you think you are. You do not get a free pass. Tony Gonzalez should resign immediately and be held fully accountable for what he's done. She and her family deserve better, and Texans deserve a congressman who does not prey on women." Anthony Gonzalez has denied the affair. Regina Santos Aviles took her own life 5 months ago.
Total Battle. Play now for free.
The NFL just quietly banned a compound from competition. Not a steroid, not a stimulant. A natural extract that gave players such a massive cardiovascular advantage, increased blood flow, zero platelet stickiness, oxygen delivery off the charts, that the league classified it as performance enhancing. Players were recovering between drives like they were 22 years old. VO2 max numbers that didn't make sense. Fourth quarter stamina that looked like first quarter legs. The NFL banned it, but never told the public what it was. Because if 60-year-old men found out a natural compound could give them the cardiovascular system of a professional football player, the $30 billion blood pressure industry would be in serious trouble. Here's what got banned. S-allylcysteine. Never heard of it? Neither had the league until players started posting blood work that broke their testing models. This compound comes from garlic, but not the garlic you're thinking of. Raw garlic is useless. Your stomach acid kills the active compound in 60 seconds. But when you seal garlic in complete darkness for 20 months, the molecule transforms into something your body absorbs 100%. Enters your blood directly. 10-hour half-life. And it does something no drug, no steroid, no PED has ever done. It repairs the blood vessel itself. That's why the league panicked. Steroids add muscle. EPO adds red blood cells. Every banned substance in pro sports adds an artificial element. This compound doesn't add anything. It removes. It strips the calcium deposits off your arterial walls, makes rigid vessels elastic again, wide again. And when a player's blood vessels open up like that, oxygen delivery goes through the roof. Lactic acid flushes instantly. Heart rate recovery between possessions drops to numbers that look like data errors. These guys weren't doping. They had better plumbing. And better plumbing beat every drug in the testing catalog. The NFL couldn't let that stand. Not because it's dangerous. There are zero side effects on record. They banned it because the gap between players using it and players who weren't was too wide to be competitive. A 34-year-old linebacker on this compound was outlasting a 24-year-old rookie in the fourth quarter. Not because he was tougher, because his blood was delivering oxygen at a rate the younger players' calcified arteries couldn't match. Age wasn't the the advantage. Clean pipes were the advantage. And that advantage was available to anyone for 50 cents a day. Now think about what that means for you. You're not playing 4 quarters. You're not competing for a roster spot. You're trying to walk upstairs without your heart pounding out of your chest. You're trying to stay awake past 8 p.m. You're trying to show up for your family without your body shutting down. If this compound gave a professional football player the cardiovascular system of a 22-year-old, what do you think it does for a 60-year-old man who just wants to feel like himself again? It's not even a fair comparison. Those players needed a 10% edge. You need a lifeline. And it's the same bottle. Here's what should make you furious. Your doctor has medication that works by doing the opposite of what this compound does. Your pills constrict blood vessels to push a number down. Less flow, less oxygen, less delivery to every organ in your body. The NFL banned this compound for giving players too much blood flow. Your pharmacy gave you a pill that guarantees too little. Players got banned for having arteries that worked too well. You're getting billed monthly for a pill that makes yours work worse. The compound the NFL banned is available right now through a company called Resilia. Same compound, same S-allyl cysteine, 1,200 milligrams in one odorless soft gel, 20 months of aging in every capsule. That's why most companies don't do it. They can't wait 2 years, so they sell you 30-day aged garbage from CVS that does nothing. Resilia does the full process, the exact compound that was too powerful for professional football players to legally use, sitting in a soft gel that shows up at your door in 48 hours without the side effects. Players used it to win championships. You're going to use it to get your life back, your energy, your clarity, your drive, your blood moving the way it moved before your arteries turned to concrete. And your doctor's only answer was to squeeze them harder. This is the exit from that system. Not another pill that manages the collapse. A compound that reverses it. The same one the NFL saw reverse so fast in professional athletes, they had to make it illegal to keep competition fair. Resilia is running 70% off right now, with a full 30-day money-back guarantee.
Son of a bitch. Good morning.
It's a bitch. I remember that shit because I remember,
Good morning.
Best gay brethren. What the fuck is going on? The object is, don't cook shit in the house. Too motherfucking hot for that shit. Nice blue clouds. Nice white clouds back there, man. You see that shit? That motherfucker looks a little weird. What up, man? Look at this motherfucking cloud. Look at a fucking witch with a beard. Pointy ass nose.
That there, you call a